One of the interviews for which I get the most questions and comments is my interview with angel investor Jason Calacanis, and for good reason. In this episode, he lays bare his relationship with money and investing and how he picks unicorns. Hopefully, in this clip and in the full version of the show, you can get some tips from Jason Calacanis and pick your own unicorns. Enjoy.
So as a founder, you got back to like, how do you pick? I like to look at the craftsmanship and the detail work. So when I talked to Travis about Uber and he was showing it to me, and he's like, hey, will you invest in my company? And I was like, sure. And he's like, well, you want to know what it is? I was like, nope, I want to invest in you. And he's like, well, let me show you. And he shows it to me. And he says, it's Uber Taxi. And there were 2 taxis in San Francisco at the time. And the taxi was going down the road sideways. And I'm like, what is that guy, Tokyo drifting this shit? Like, why is it like that? He's like, oh, it's a really hard problem, Jason. Like the iPhone 3G just got GPS and the car's coming down, but there's latency. And what we're going to do is we're going to make like 7 or 8 different versions of the car. And then we're going to have it, when we have certainty that it's going south, then we're going to flip it to show that view. But right now I don't have a designer. I'm trying to get some money raised so I can get a designer to make this 2D. And I was like, oh my God, like he's thinking about that shit, right? Like maniacal focus on details. And when I invested in Thumbtack, Marco's parents had invested, and I was the second investor, which I'll always never forgive myself for, because like I should have gotten there before his parents. But I'll put that aside right now.
I feel like it's a forgivable second place.
Not for me. Not for me. I'm always pushing myself.
Keep beating yourself up. Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
That's healthy.
But I was looking at it, and Thumbtack now has a very slick way to match you up with, a carpenter or a nanny or a piano teacher or whatever. But at the time, the first idea was a completely different idea. And the idea I invested in was, it was like a Yahoo directory of service providers.
Like Angie's List or something
sort
like
of
that?
like Angie's List, but better, because what he did in it was, you didn't have to pay. And when I was looking at the profile of this like painter, it had like 4 icons. And I was like, what are those icons? He's like, well, hover over them. And it said like address confirmed, insured, driver's license. I was like, how do you get their address confirmed? He's like, oh, that's great. We send them a postcard with a code on it. They type the code in and we know that they got the postcard. I was like, oh, fuck, that's genius, which is what Nextdoor stole from them, which is a really clever idea. I was like, why is it important that you know their address? He's like, well, back to serial killers, I have a whole thesis on investing in companies around serial killers. We'll put that aside. That's the next book.
If you have a serial killer startup, please
exactly.
stay after the show.
He's like, you ever like get somebody off Craigslist and you wonder, is this person going to rob or kill me? I'm like, every time. And that's just in casual encounters. Yeah. Hey, joking. Doesn't exist anymore.
Doesn't?
No.
It doesn't exist anymore?
I don't. Does casual encounters exist? See it? Busted.
Yeah, one person's
Busted.
like, I mean, maybe it does.
Yeah.
I think so. Maybe not.
Maybe. Let me check my phone.
Yeah, hang on.
Still exists. So anyway, I was like, wow, that's like a level of craftsmanship that is laudable. And so I look for those things. And, I'm talking a bunch now because I'm the subject of the interviews, but my team is always joking, like, it's really weird to be in a meeting with you, with the founder. And I'm like, why is that? It's like, because you don't talk. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I ask very short questions. What's that? Or why are you doing this? Or what are you working on? And I let them talk and talk and talk. And then eventually you can see that craftsmanship come out and that detail work come out. And if you see that detail work, you just think this person's paying attention to what matters, which is delighting customers, right? At the end of the day, startups have to delight some group of people, and they have to be scalable, and they have to have a great margin. It's unbelievable to me how many people don't realize that that's at the core of what we do. Is it delighting somebody? Does it make a profit each time people use it in some way? And can you scale it? A lot of people are just fucking around building features in like some vacuum, and they're afraid to charge for their product, and they're afraid to scale it, and they don't talk to their customers. And that's the kiss of death. Like, you really need to like talk to your customers and study how they use the product. The other example was calm.com, and I'm particularly proud of that investment that we made, because at that time nobody would invest in Alex, or very few people would. There were some, but people were writing like 25K checks. And when I met Alex, I had him on the podcast. You can look it up.
We'll link to it in the show notes.
Link to it in the show notes. And there was a moment where I was just like, how did you get the domain name calm.com? That's a 4-letter domain. It's $1 million domain name at least. He's like, oh, I pay much less. I'm like, $500,000? He's like, much less. I was like, under 100? He's like, yeah, something like that. Later told me, I think he paid $40,000 for it. I'm like, a 4-letter domain name in 2014. How the fuck can you get me, a 4-letter? Can I get blue.com for 40 grand? Like, I'll take every 4-letter word in the dictionary for $40,000.
You can if you invest in my company, calm.com.
Exactly, was kind of his response. And he had been written off a little bit as, and this is tremendously cynical, but he had done the $1 Million homepage. Anybody remember $1 Million homepage? Raise your hand.
The pixels on it?
Yeah, so these are the old people. Those are Gen Xers.
Yeah.
Everybody else millennial. So what the $1 Million homepage was Alex wanted to make $1 million. He was in college. So he said, I'm going to make a web page, and I'm going to sell each pixel on the web page for $1, and there'll be 1 million pixels. And so he announces this, and somebody buys their name, Jason, in 8-bit, and it cost them $400. And people are like, that guy's an idiot for buying Jason in the center of the $1 million homepage. And then 7 other online companies, because this thing's in the press, put their names on it. And then all the other e-commerce companies are like, well, I need to be on that.
Yeah, we got to be on this.
Right. And then since everybody's going there to see who's putting the bigger things in there, it becomes a competition. So now people are putting $10,000 items or $50,000 items. Like, that guy's an idiot. And then all of a sudden the page is sold out and he makes $1 million and he sweeps it. Whoop, zip, zip, zip. And I'm like, a cynic would look at that and go, oh, well, that guy's a charlatan hustler, one-trick pony. And I looked at it and said, that person's a brilliant marketer. He's the most efficient way to make $1 million. What else can he do? And it was calm.com. It was meditation. And I thought to myself, okay, I've been talking to him for months. He can't raise money. But he's special, clearly. And the signals are going off, like with Janelle earlier where I said winner, winner, winner. Like, that was going off like even brighter, like, and invest. And so I see that and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. Fuck it. Got to make a bet once in a while. Sometimes you got to play 7-8 suited. Let's see what happens. It's worked for me in the past.
If you don't know what that means, don't gamble.
Don't gamble. I'll tell a good story about that later. When I was a bad poker player and I realized this lesson. Anyway, putting it aside, I said, okay, I'm going to run it through this new thing because my friend Naval told me about syndicates and I started one. And there's like a bunch of people who want to invest alongside me. So 60 of us put $378,000 into the company. It was worth $5 million at the time. And somebody posted on Quora, will Jason lose $400,000 investing in a meditation app? And I wrote a long defense of my investment. And I said, listen, Phil Jackson is doing meditation with Kobe and Shaq. My friend Sam Harris is studying meditation and CAT scans at UCLA. And they've started this mindfulness center. That's UCLA. That's Phil Jackson. Like, this can't be not real. And if you think about it, yoga became this huge tradition in America where, like, if you go to Boise, Idaho, the Motel 8 has a yoga class. But like in the 70s, there were like 4 yoga classes a week in America, all in Santa Monica on donation base. So again, suspending disbelief and saying, what's the 1 in 1,000 chances it does work? What would it look like? And then I had this crazy realization. Yoga, you need to go to a studio to do. But meditation, you close your eyes and you listen and concentrate. And you could deliver it on this phone. And I said, how much is a meditation class? He said, yeah, most people donate. They do a donation. I'm like, where can you do it? He's like, I could tell you some people who do it, but there's not really many meditation places 4 years ago. I said, how much does it cost? He says, well, it's usually donation based, and most people would suggest a donation would be $20. I'm like, how much do we charge? He's like, $10 a year. I'm like,
$10 a year.
A year. I was like, why don't we make it $10 a month? He's like, do you think we should do that? We've been thinking about that. And I was like, yeah, I think so. So they make it $10 a month, and the sales go like this. And I was like, wait a second, you charge 10 times more and it grew faster. Oh, perceived value.
Right.
And then subscriptions came out and they just closed around at 200.
Subscriptions on the phone.
On the phone and other places, reoccurring.
Billing.
So now he's getting, the last round was $250 million. Somebody offered us $16 million for our 400K position. I sold 10% of it, took a quick little tasty poo. Idiot insurance, gave all our investors a 3.5x return or so. And then we have 90% riding. And
what does that mean?
Okay, so there's something called secondary shares. Sometimes somebody like Masayoshi-san wants to buy some of Uber. So they give people who are early investors in Uber the ability to sell some shares at a $50 billion valuation. So the new investor said, we'll buy some of these shares at $250 million, which if you bought in at $5, That's
Pretty good.
50x, 30, 40, 50x. You might want to sell some and then let the rest ride. The company's probably worth 500 now, and the rumor is they're doing 70, 80 million a year, which will probably make it our 7th unicorn, hopefully. But what I'm proud of is it was a very non-obvious investment until it wasn't. But my entire thesis was Alex, a person who the rest of the world didn't appreciate for greatness. And I think he's one of the 10 best product people in our industry ever. I'm like, I'll put him up there with Steve Jobs and Elon and, other really, Evan Williams from Twitter and Medium, and then Evan Spiegel from Snapchat. These were like really great product minds. I put Alex right up there and maybe in front of some of those names, actually. I think he's going to build a $10 billion business. And that's when you're sitting there and you reflect on your life, which now I'm 47, which I do think about sometimes, like how many years I got left. I go, you know what? That makes me feel pretty fucking good that this business might not exist if I didn't write that check. It makes me feel really fucking good that I'm going to make $50 million off of it too.
Yeah, I can imagine how that would feel. And I will only ever imagine how that will feel.
You could feel it. You could feel it. You could go to jasonsyndicate.com and join my syndicate and invest alongside me, and you might feel it. And it's funny because that was the first syndicate investment. It's the most successful of all time. And this guy emailed me, and he's like, I'm in your syndicate, and I've done 6 investments, and I want to know, I have a very simple question for you, Jason Calacanis. Are you a one-trick pony? The only thing you ever hit is Uber? And I was like, well, have you been reading the updates? Which 6 deals did you go? And he listed deals, and like 2 or 3 of them are dead, and one of them was Calm, and one of them was another one. I was like, well, with Calm.com, did you read last month's update? He's like, no, I don't read the updates. Like, it's up 50x. He's like, well, I put 6,000 in. Does that mean I have like 30,000 now? No, I said 50, not 5. He's like, well, I have $300,000 now? I was like, yeah, you have $300,000 now. He's like, you're awesome, dude.
And that's when you stopped answering your email.
If you found this clip insightful, click here to watch the full episode with Jason Calacanis. But before you do, click here to subscribe to the channel of The Jordan Harbinger Show.